Tonight on Dreamspaces, Manhattan, where the shops are cooler than the clothes. The rum old buildings of Puerto Rico. Libraries with a novel approach. And Dave Gorman goes off the rails at Canary Wharf.
Fashion houses have a tough job. There's a lot of labels out there, so making a splash is getting harder. Their latest trick is to exploit their biggest physical asset, the shop itself. In London and here in New York, some of the A-list names in architecture have turned their attention to the humble shop. But it's humble no more. Some of today's retail outlets are so stunning, you go just to gawp. Prada's latest New York store, located on the legendary Broadway, was designed by Rem Koolhaas, one of the most influential architects around. It's only fitting that the building used to house the famous Guggenheim Museum. You could be forgiven for thinking it's still an art gallery. Mixed in with the multimedia movies, the clothes are hung like exhibits. The cages can be moved, as can the shelves. Even the shoe display seems theatrical, and there's a reason for this. The steps become the seats of an auditorium, with a stage that flips out of this zebra wood wave. There's a blurring of the boundaries between shopping and art.
This store is an experiment in some ways, the ideas about shopping and how we see our customers shopping.
When you walk around, it kind of feels like you're on your own voyage of discovery. You kind of don't know where the boundaries of shop and storage and where do I go. Is that all part of the idea?
Well, I think that the displays and the way the store's merchandise really also emphasizes the product. It is an opportunity to see a lot of product. Even on your way to the downstairs, there's merchandise in the display elevator.
So it's part of the whole visit and the whole journey is the shop itself?
Yes, I think the customer is drawn to the product, but they're also drawn to the unique experience here in the store.
Everywhere you go in this shop is innovation, new materials and new technologies. But it's when you hit the changing rooms that you really enter the next generation of shopping. Glass doors, not a problem. Not quite sure about the colour though. But that's not a problem either, because as soon as I've entered the changing room, it registers what clothes I brought in. So looking on this system, I can just, using this screen, run through the different styles that are available, what other colours it's in, and also what it looks like on the catwalk. And the technology doesn't end there. Using a little camera and this clever time delay video system, I can see what it looks like from behind. It almost makes you forget that the aim is to make you reach for your credit card, but that's what it all comes down to in the end. The basic idea behind shopping hasn't changed a lot in the last 150 years. It's all been about maximising sale per square foot. Well, that was until this place came along. This is Nike Town. And while Nike still wants to sell, they're actually more interested in selling image. This is built advertising. The Donna Karan store in Madison Avenue was designed by English architect Dominic Kozerski. His store has gone for understated elegance, using top-quality natural materials. It's classy, creamy, and shiny as the shirt buttons. The message? This is a brand to take seriously. The building is awe-inspiring and aspirational. Shop here, and that's how you'll look too. This shop is very, very tasteful. It takes a lot of lessons from the classical art gallery. It's about stepping back so that the clothes step forward. But in stepping back, it does it in a very mannered way. It's got light emanating from understairs, huge black walls and lovely water features. There's even bamboo in the garden. Japanese fashion maestro Izzy Miyake's new store allows the building itself to take centre stage. For his shop in ultra-trendy Tribeca, he went for one of the world's most instantly recognisable architects, Frank Gehry. The tornado-like sculpture in his trademark titanium hits you the minute you walk through the door. It sucks you in like a whirlwind. And the sculpture's not the only arty touch. This shop doesn't just remind you of an art gallery, it is an art gallery.
Well, the idea from the beginning was that the space would be a sort of a laboratory of ideas, a space where young, talented artists could show their work. So it is a retail space, first and foremost, but there is this other aspect too. The first artist was Alejandro Gehry, Frank Gehry's son, whose mural is still upstairs. We've since then had a pianist, and our third artist was Giovanni Pagnotta, and we're actually sitting on his art right here, the table, the chairs.
Some people might say that actually the kind of introduction of art pieces and furniture pieces and big name designers into a fashion show is a kind of slightly underhand way of trying to give the product some kind of gravitas, some kind of weight. But how would you respond to that?
Definitely. I mean, you know, there are people who will look at this and say, okay, it's clothing, it's a clothes shop, and it is. However, Miyake has always worked with artists, so for him this is nothing new. But from a purely marketing point of view, it is a way to bring an image to the store, to put the brand and the name Issey Miyake at the forefront. And by hosting different artists who are into different things, a muralist, a furniture designer, a pianist, you attract a different niche of people every time.
The work on the building itself was entrusted to Gehry's protege, Gordon Kipping. His task was to turn what was a 19th century spice warehouse into a fitting home for a 21st century fashion house. So when you came down to site, beginning of the project, it was obviously a very imposing and very beautiful building to begin with.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty rough space, pretty raw, and but inherently beautiful. Instead of painting the cast iron and perhaps putting a ceiling on the wood joist, what we've done is celebrated the original characteristics of the building. We basically sandblasted both the wood beams and the cast iron and just gave them a clear coat and let them be. And I think maybe architecturally there's this sort of glass box new building inserted into the old building.
Yeah. What strikes me about this shop is that there's a very coherent message between the architecture, the titanium, Frank Gehry's use of shapes and flow, and Issey Miyake with his use of technology and folding in fabrics. So what you're creating is a very strong brand identity. And let's face it, that's what it's all about.
Puerto Ricans could be forgiven for never bothering to build anything. They've already got perfect skies, warm seas and endless coconuts.